Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Chase Maddox. Today I'm going to show you 5 ways to use repetition in your solo. We're going to talk about single note repetition, back and forth repetition. We're going to talk about motivic repetition, intervallic repetition, and using quotes. So there's a lot jam-packed. We're going to use Peter Bernstein's solo on Lady Bird for this. This is coming from Melvin Rhine's record that actually also has Eric Alexander on saxophone. And we have a course with Eric Alexander if you happen to be a sax player. I have a couple announcements I'll get to in the middle of the video that you'll want to stick around for, as well as a really cool bonus lick from this solo that I'll teach you guys at the end. Something really fast and really cool. Okay, so let's take a look at this first way of using repetition. It's one you're probably expecting if you're hearing repetition. And this is taking a single note and just repeating that note. So in Peter Bernstein's opening phrase of the solo, he plays this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And throughout this solo, Peter Bernstein is using a lot of repetition, all of these various repetitive devices. So it's a really great solo to study that. A lot of times we see repeated notes at the end of the phrase, not so much at the beginning, although there are some spots where he does use it at the beginning. So we want to make sure we're using it in some swinging ways. Our next example, he's using it in this way. So there's a couple spots he's doing it there. We're starting off this example on the end of the form for Lady Bird. If you're not familiar with the form, you'll want to get familiar with that so these examples will make more sense. So he's playing that repeated G at the end of the form for Lady Bird, landing on G again for C major, right? Playing almost like E minor, which he does a lot on this solo, playing like E minor type sounds over C major. And then we have this repeated, and then ending again on that F minor with a repeated note, this time a B flat, instead of before it was F. Okay, so that's our examples for repeated notes. Now let's look at one that he does a lot more often, which is what I call back and forth. And this is where we take 2 notes and we're kind of bouncing in between them with different rhythms. It's one really good way of kind of extending your idea, because by going back and forth, you're taking up some time. So we don't have to think about like a lot of different ideas. We're just playing with those 2 notes. That's another way I think about it. We're just playing with these 2 notes with different rhythms. For our third example, we're looking at this back and forth. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. What's going on here? So we have a couple spots where there's this back and forth. He's playing with this C and D, going down into the B when it goes back to C major, and then playing with this back and forth. So throughout this solo, you guys will want to check out the solo to hear these different examples. I'm just giving you a couple for each of these types, and then you can listen and interpret some other ones yourself. He uses this a lot. Again, if you see on the C major, he's playing over this E minor. And I'm just continuing into that phrase. The next example is a continuation of this whole melodic idea. Sounds like this. So as you can see from this example, he does more back and forth at that part. And then when he slides into that B to E, that's referencing earlier the motif we had with the C major, playing with that E minor sound. So it's really like he's coming back, he's repeating some of those concepts that he used earlier with that E minor and bringing us back to that melody he stated not too many measures before. So that's another really good way we can use repeated motifs or concepts that we've played earlier and bring them back to basically tie our solo together. That's one way when people talk about having a story to your solo. This is one way that they're talking about you can get that sort of feeling of a story, is by taking an idea and bringing it back. So your melodic content doesn't just happen once and then never seen again. Like a good story, we bring back other elements and themes as we continue on. So let me play that whole phrase, connecting it so that you can hear what that sounds like all together and these different repetitive devices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Before we get to the next example, I do want to announce I have something cool coming to you guys, and this is a YouTube membership option now. There's 2 levels, and first of all, this won't take the place of what I've been talking about before with the guitar community. That will still be happening soon once I get the Dan Wilson course out. That's going to be way more involved, way more personal time. But I do want to offer a couple options for people that either want to support a little bit more to the channel and what I'm trying to do here, or just have a couple perks that are worth it to you guys for the value. So the first membership, the supporter level, that's going to be $2.99. And what you guys can see in the details if you try joining is you get a monthly Q&A. So there'll be a monthly Q&A for topics that you guys decide on. We'll have like a hang, an hour or two, probably on the weekend, and I'll go over and answer any of your questions. As part of this level as well, I'll do member shout outs. So if you join, I'll make sure to shout you guys out. And at the end of these videos, I'll have a whole list of supporters and make recognition of that support would be great. So that's this first level. The next level, what I'm calling VIP, includes those perks, so the shout out and the monthly Q&A, but it also has member only polls. So you guys will be able to more directly pick what kind of content you see on these lesson videos. So that's super cool. You also get priority replies to the comments. As I'm getting more comments, and as some of the comments are more involved, where I have to go back to videos and really rewatch and check out what you're saying, some of those questions I don't quite have time for. But with this level, if you're part of this VIP membership, I'll have time for all of your questions in the comments or if you email me. And then lastly, what's really cool is this level will also get an exclusive video each month that no one else will see. And this might be vlog video, it might be an extra lesson, quick lesson, it might be gig footage. So I have some cool gigs coming up, and I'll be able to get some footage from those gigs and put that together and show you guys. So a little bit more behind the scenes type of video, which you guys can check out. So if you're interested, you can join below. I appreciate all the support. Okay, so let's get back to the lesson. This next example is what I'm calling intervallic repetition. And this is where Peter Bernstein is repeating an interval, specific interval, in this case also a rhythm. So we could also add a rhythmic repetition, but he's really focused on repeating this interval and then carrying that idea, that intervallic idea out as long as possible. As part of this, he ends up using other types of repetition that we've talked about before, but let's focus on this first example with intervallic repetition. The main interval we're repeating here is this fourth. And then ending that phrase, he does a little back and forth, some even repeated single notes on that E flat, and then ending on that G. So it's a cool example of all of these different types. And the last example I want to talk about is this idea of repeated quotes or longer melodic content. And he actually does some of that in this last example, that longer phrase that's fully repeated that we're moving down. But in this case, it's really interesting because he's taking a quote from the song Inner Urge, which is another tune that Peter Bernstein's played on, that you can find on Spotify in another group. But he's really emphasizing this Inner Urge like quote. And when he does it, at some parts when it goes to the F minor, seems very odd because he's really hitting an F sharp over F minor. And so when we analyze these things, again, we want to think of the bigger picture. Sometimes we want to zoom out. So we're not analyzing that F sharp over an F minor. We're thinking about what's he doing kind of a higher level than that, and why does it work? In this case, it's working because he's really repeating that quote, and it works over C major, and then F minor, B flat 7, there's a lot of tension there. He changes up the quote to kind of fit it better. And then when it comes back to C major, he's ending that phrase and it works. So let's take a listen and I'll show you guys what it sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so he's playing with that F sharp over that C major, giving it that sharp 11 sound. But really, we should take all of that kind of analysis away and really just focus on he's playing that Inner Urge quote. And yes, when he goes to B flat 7, he goes up to the A flat to fit it a little better, and then just come right back down to that quote. Okay, so those are our 5 different ways of using repetition. So hopefully some of those make sense to you. Real quick, I will show you this really cool lick that I promised you from Peter Bernstein. It's a backdoor 2-5, F minor, B flat 7 going in a C major. It sounds like this. So I'll have the tab for that. And guys, the tab for all of this is in the free PDF below. You guys can check that out. Again, please check out the YouTube membership levels, 2 options, $2.99 and $5.99, depending on the perks that you're interested in. As always, thanks for the support, guys. Even if you're just here checking out the videos, hitting that like button or subscribing, I appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.